Hi, my name is Jason Dulac, and this is My Own Worst Enemy. Life, what is it? Why am I here? What's the one thing that keeps me going every day? I sure as hell don't know. I guess I'm still trying to figure that one out. All I really know is life is tough. It's a game that you're always playing, and sometimes you just want to lose. I've had my share of good things in life, but I've always noticed is good things always come with bad things. Every time in my life, when things were starting to get better, I would do something to throw it away. The times where everything was starting to fall into place and things were finally making sense, something in my mind would make me do or say something to destroy it. In a way, I never thought I deserved to be happy. A little piece of me always thought I was better off lonely. In a way I was, because in my mind, if I was always alone, I could only hurt myself. It's my way of protecting everyone else. Chapter 1, Where a Preteen Was Born. Thinking back to where it all started, and back to where my life definitely changed. It was the place a scared kid stood, and later, where a confused preteen was born. The first time here was kind of a blur. I was 13 years old in a bad place. I hated the world. Most of all, I hated myself. It wasn't that I hated what I was. It's not that I hated me. I hated what I was. And that was an outcast. It was my first time in the psych ward of the hospital, but it wouldn't be my last. I was scared, but not being there. I was scared of what my schoolmates were thinking. I was already an outcast. Now I was the outcast who attempted suicide. In my mind, I didn't do it because I wasn't liked. It wasn't that I wasn't understood. How could have I been? They were too busy beating me up or stealing stuff from me. I was just a pawn, there to be pushed around. I would never say anything, and they knew it. In a way, I was my own worst enemy. I spent 4 months in the hospital the first time. It was some rough times, but there are few things I will never forget, like her. I went to school with her in kindergarten. She moved away when I was in grade 1. I had been in the hospital just 1 week after she did. We were the two youngest there, so we stuck close together. She had some bad anger issues, and I had trust issues. But without each other, we wouldn't have made it. The whole first month, they kept going on, telling me lots of people suffer from depression. You're not alone. There are others like you. You need to open up to adults. You can't take it out on yourself. But then who do they want me to take it out on? If I took it out on someone else, I'd be just like the bullies at school. I could never be them. I was young and scared. All the things they were telling me only made me worry more. What I was, and will I get worse? I would cry at night, but she would sneak into my room and comfort me. She was the only true friend I ever had in that place. There was one night, she was really upset. She was freaking out, and the nurses couldn't calm her down. She got sent to her room for the rest of the night. That night, she snuck into my room, sat down beside me, and just started talking about all her problems. It was the first time I listened to a single word she said, every single word she said, without interrupting. After she was done, she gave me a big hug. She started to leave the room. Then she came back, gave me a kiss. It was my first kiss, and it couldn't be shared with a better person. 2 weeks after the kiss, she got to go home. I never saw or heard from her again. She may have got to leave. My journey there hadn't come to an end yet. I went for 2 more months of group talks, therapy, lectures, and hearing stories from others before I finally got released. I said that day I would never be back again. Boy, did I lie or what. I spent 5 times there, and to this day, I don't know if I learned anything from it, but I know I met some good people there. Chapter 2, Social Skills. Sometimes in life, you're told stuff you don't want to hear. Stuff that lingers on your mind, that you wish you could forget, but stays with you forever. Sometimes it pushes you on. Every time it pushes you deep into a hole you can't get out of. I'm going to tell you about one of those times, but let me start at the beginning. I'd just gotten out of the psych ward, and my parents were trying to think of things they could do to help me get better. My psychiatrist told them they should put me in some kind of group. So between that idea and my stupid principal always telling my parents I need to learn to get along with kids my own age, I ended up in social skills. I don't know why they thought social skills would help me. Damn, I'm social enough. I talk to myself. All kidding aside, the truth is, I didn't want to talk to people. Talking always got me into trouble. As far as I was concerned, socializing is supposed to be part of life. Well, to me, it always brought fear. Fear of saying the wrong thing. Or saying something that made me look weak. I always tried to pass myself off as tough. But on the inside, I was a little boy who just wanted help, but had not learned to talk. So every week, for 3 months, I went to social skills. During this time, I was going through some rough times at home. My mom was in the hospital again for her back problems. My brother was coming over to spend time with me more often than usual. The problem with me and my brother is, if we're in a room together for too long, we tend to fight. Of course, that's what happened. We started yelling. I don't remember what we were yelling about, but I won't forget what my brother said. It's your fault Mom's in the hospital. So the next day, after talking with my dad, I found out the truth. My mom never had back problems. She had serious depression and was bipolar. She'd been in and out of the hospital the whole time I was growing up. At that point, I finally realized I was just like my mother. Over the next couple of days, this was all I could think about. I wasn't thinking like a normal person. I was thinking like a confused and slightly dark 13-year-old. In my mind, I was thinking about was all the fights I had with my mom. All the times I yelled at her. All the times I stressed her out. Did I do this to her? Am I the reason she doesn't want to live? Is it because I'm such a failure at everything I do that she can't see what a wonderful mother she is? These things were sticking in my brain, so I finally decided I was going to be the son my mom deserved. So for the next 6 months, I was Mr. Happy, but I wasn't happy. I was trying too hard to be someone that I wasn't, that was slowly digging myself into a hole that I couldn't escape. My mom was bragging to her friends about how good I was doing. I had friends at school. I was always playing hockey on my new friend's street. Yes, if only all this were true. I didn't have friends at school. I was only smart enough to make the teachers think I did by paying the kids. By doing kids' homework, in return, they would pretend to be my friends. All I did. Also, I didn't play hockey. I would ride my bike to the park and sit on the swings by myself, like the loner I was. The problem with doing all this was it just made me bitter and angry. Outside it looked great. Inside it was a ticking time bomb, about to explode. The stress was just too much for a kid my age to handle. So I wrote a suicide note. But before I could act on it, my mom found the note, and I was back to where I started, in the psych ward. Chapter 3, Breaking Through a Firewall. 15 years old, high school, friends. 3 things I thought I'd never hear. Was I finally on the way to being normal? Or would things come back to bite me in the ass like usual? I was at the top of my game. Well, I kind of wasn't. Things like friends, hanging out, being supportive, and relying on people didn't come easy for me. It was something new to me. Up to this point, I spent my whole life doing things I thought was best for me. Of course my parents were there, but in a way, they were not, because I didn't let them. With everything I was going through, I mentally put up what I say is a firewall. Basically, anytime I heard or felt something wrong, my body, I would go into what I call high gear. High gear is when my mind starts thinking in overdrive. Have you ever had one of those times where you broke something with your parents, and then your brain starts to come all these lies, excuses, and cover stories? That's how my brain was almost all the time. That was my firewall. So as I was saying before, I finally had what I wanted for a while. And that was to be normal. But that would never happen. But at least I could try. It was hard at first. But my friends were always wanting to hang out, talk, and play games. Normal stuff. Well, for them it was normal. For me, not so much. So every day I tried to do one thing that didn't feel normal to me. I did this for a month, and honestly, I thought I was failing. Nothing seemed like it was going right. At least to me it didn't. Then one day at school, we're out at the store at lunch, and I said something. I don't remember what I said. My classmate broke out laughing. At this point, my firewall was starting to kick in. Then he turns to me, taps me on the shoulder, and says, "I think you're the funniest guy ever. You're awesome. Don't ever change, man." Right when he said that, it hit me. The password to my firewall was comedy. That day, I made a breakthrough. Was my journey over then? Not even close. But at least I was learning and growing as a person. I was 15. I was in high school. And I had friends. Chapter 4. Cass. I stood there alone. No one could change the outcome but me. A million things were running through my head. My heart was beating a mile a minute. There were so many things I wanted to do in life. So many memories I would leave behind. Friends I once had, but tried so hard to push them all away. Where would I go from there? What lay ahead for me after this cruel dark world? There was only one way to find out. I was finally ready to jump. There I was, standing on the edge of the bridge, about to make the plunge into the concrete below, when my phone started to ring. My mind was made up. I wasn't going to answer the phone. I'd go through with the plan. But all I heard was ringing, getting louder and louder. So I answered. Once I picked up the phone, all I heard was Cass. She was bawling her eyes out. All of a sudden, my mentality changed, and I knew somebody needed me. If I jumped, I would never know if Cass was alright. Cass and I met at my first high school. We dated on and off for a while. One thing I can say was, we've helped each other out time and time again. Even though we have very little contact now, she will never know how much of an impact she had on my life. If she never called me that day, I wouldn't be writing this book. All I want to say to Cass is, you saved me that day. I will always be grateful, but most of all, I stood alone at the beginning of that day. But at the end, I stood with you. Cass, I love you, and always will. Chapter 5. A Revelation. Uncle John was one of the nicest guys you'd ever meet. Also, he was my mom's twin brother. He had tough growing up. He was born with water in the brain. Doctors didn't think he would live past the age of 2. He proved them all wrong. He lived till he was 42. My uncle was blind and in a wheelchair, but that never bothered him. He was one of those guys that could brighten up your day by just saying hi. My mom took his death the hardest. But who could blame her? They were twins. Today was the anniversary of his death. When I left for school, my mom was in a great mood. I hadn't seen her this way for months. So when I got to school, I went to science class. I got there a little early. My teacher said he would like to talk to me about changing to a more applied type of science class. So we talked. and ended up switching classes. Now that I switched classes, I had the whole day off. So I got on the bus and went home. I walked in the house. I didn't see my mom, so I figured she went out. I went to grab something to eat, saw a note on the table. I started to read it, and I couldn't believe it. Harvey and Jason, I love you guys so much. I can't stand living without John. I've gone to stay with him. I rushed upstairs and bolted into my mom's room. There she was, barely moving, and empty pill bottles on the floor. I checked to see if she was breathing. She was, but barely. I quickly called 911. Just in time, they said. If they got there any later, my mom wouldn't be here. The next few days were tough. I kept thinking, what if? What if I didn't switch classes? What if I missed the bus? What if I decide not to go straight home? What if my mom doesn't love me anymore? At this point, nothing made sense. Everything in my life was changing, and not in a good way. It was like I was losing my grip on reality. I was having nightmares every night. It got to the point where I didn't sleep for 5 days straight. I would just sit in the basement, throwing a tennis ball against the wall for hours on end. My dad was getting worried about me. He tried to talk to me, but it always ended up in an argument. It's not that I was mad at him. I was mad at myself. I guess in a way, I sort of thought this was my fault. Not my fault that she attempted suicide. My fault that she didn't succeed. I know it sounds horrible saying that, but I felt that all she wanted was her brother. And me finding her stopped her from being together again. Because I know she loved us, but they had been through hell together. And they always got through it together. So why shouldn't they be able to be in peace together? I know, I couldn't have survived if my mom was gone. She helped shape me into who I am today. I'm not afraid to admit that it was hell seeing my mom go through everything she did, considering the next year she tried the same thing. But I know she learned from those times, and I had a revelation. I never want to put somebody through the pain I went through, seeing my mom lying there, and knowing all I could do was wait for help. I swore from that day on, I would never take my own life. That is the first 5 chapters of My Own Worst Enemy. If you would like to learn more about the book, please check out www.killthestigma.com. That's www.killthestigma.com. It's a website I've created to promote the mental health is something everybody needs to be aware about. Please check it out and tell me what you think. Later, I will post I will record the next 5 chapters of the book. Everybody, have a good day.